I'm back from Hawaii, and I don't feel that good about it. I liked Hawaii. What's not to like? 78 degrees, sunshine every day. You want to be outside. You want to be surfing. You want to be jogging. You want to be basking in the sun on the beach, or you want to be playing golf or watching golf. You just want to be outside. And then you come home and it's 30 and there's snow on the ground. I had to take one for the team and go to Hawaii for 2 weeks. What are you going to do? This week on Breaking Even, interesting discussions with Jonathan Coachman as we look ahead to the American Express Championship. He lays down some odds on who to bet and how to bet this specific tournament, the second full field event of the calendar year on the PGA Tour. He also talks about the NFL this weekend and who you should be picking. He was right, in case you were wondering, last week when he picked the 49ers and the points over the Cowboys. He nailed it. Probably going to nail it again this week. If you're a Titans fan, put your fingers in your ears because you might not like what he has to say. And then the markets have been breaking down. And fortunately, Guy Adami and Dan Nathan have been guiding us through at least a little bit. If you've paid attention the last 3 or 4 weeks, hopefully you've made a little bit of money. And if nothing else, you've lost just a little bit instead of getting absolutely smoked out of the joint, which a lot of people have if you were heavily invested in the NASDAQ. So they'll join us as well to continually update us on how we should be managing our funds and any trades that we should be interested in making. Specifically, Apple is on their mind. But as we do every week at the beginning of every show here on Breaking Even, I bring in my man, Barney Alary. How we doing, pal?
I'm doing great, Ned. Good to be here.
It is good to be here. It's good to see you. Not having to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to talk to you is nice. 5-hour difference, whatever it is in Hawaii. It was tough, but we made it. What'd you make of the SONY Open where Hideki Matsuyama beats Russell Henley in a playoff?
Well, first and foremost, Ned, we just always bring up brand new segments just straight out of thin air. But today's brand new segment, or one of today's brand new segments, where Ned was right and Barney was wrong.
Ooh, I like this segment. This one's going to stick. I like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it only happens about once a year, and I hope you enjoy it because Ned actually predicted the winner. Because as I recall it last week, you said to keep an eye on Matsuyama. I kind of like Cameron Smith, and turns out I was wrong. And so congratulations, Ned, because hope you bask in the glory of this one time a year because you were right. Congratulations.
Barn, I'm glad that you brought it up because I didn't want to gloat. I didn't want to say, hey, I told you so. But now that you've brought it up, I think we should have a segment called I Told You So. Because if you didn't bet Matsuyama,
congratulations to Hideki Matsuyama. It's his 8th career win. And then he becomes the first player to win 2 events in the season. And then, Ned, do you also recognize that on the PGA Tour, the events that are most favored and recognized by the Japanese fan base, he's now won all of them. So congratulations to him. But none of it should have happened without Russell Henley's collapse. If there'd have been a closest to the pin contest on the front 9 on Sunday, he'd had 3 times the closest to the pin. He shoots a 29 on the front, and then he turns into me because out of nowhere, he shoots the second worst score to par on the back 9 on Sunday. That's with also lipping out the putt on 18. Opens the door for the playoff, and congratulations to Hideki that winds up hitting basically the shot of the year so far, which is this majestic 3-wood from 377.
277.
And he hits it to about 2.5 feet, and he's your winner.
I talked with Jonathan Coachman about another shot that he hit similar to that. It was phenomenal performance. You know, when you watch a horror movie and the villain is just walking and everybody else is running as fast as they can, and yet the villain just walks, and somehow you always know the villain's going to catch the victim, right? And the victim is sprinting, and eventually the victim gets tired, and somehow the villain who has just continued to walk is right there, and they get the victim. That's what it felt like with Russell Henley and Hideki Matsuyama, because Russell Henley goes out in 29, Barn. 29. If you shoot 29 on Sunday on the opening 9, forget it. It's over. But Hideki, you just knew it was coming, and I think Russell knew it was coming, and it was inevitable that in this case, Hideki just slowly, methodically tracked him down and applied enough pressure where Russell just ran out of gas, and Hideki was there to take it. Incredible shot making, but he also led the field in strokes gained putting for a majority of the tournament. If Hideki Matsuyama leads the field anywhere for the rest of the year, Barn, in strokes gained putting, if he doesn't win, I will be shocked. If he does that, it is over as good as he hits it.
That's another new segment, Scary Stat of the Week. And last week's Scary Stat was Cameron Smith and his strokes gained off the tee. This week's Scary Stat is Hideki Matsuyama, that again leads the field in strokes gained putting. He entered the week 205th in putting, but not this week.
Absolutely incredible. Well done, Hideki Matsuyama. Hey, let's look ahead, Barn, to the American Express Championship in La Quinta. They're using 3 courses this year, defending champion Siwoo Kim. I love this tournament. I love the views. I just love desert golf, but I also like the fact that you're going to get good weather. So I'm a little envious of that. But I think it's going to be fun. I like the Pro-Am format. It's kind of a novelty. There are only a couple of them left on tour. And this tournament was almost dead. Absolutely squadooshed on life support, where the tour was kind of pumping some life back into it. Phil Mickelson has now stepped in. And I got a feeling this is eventually going to become one of those marquee events that isn't a Players' Championship, a World Golf Championship, something like that. On the tertiary level of the tour, it's going to be a fantastic event. You're going to see a lot of guys like John Rahn, number 1 in the world, end up attending.
I'm excited about it as well. I've never seen it rain at that place. In fact, that place always looks beautiful. To go from Hawaii to there, you can talk me into that itinerary plan for sure. And so now it's time for Shut Your Mouth. And all of last year, when Bryson DeChambeau was being referred to as Brooksy, Ned, I got to tell you, that's not quite accurate, because a better nickname for Bryson DeChambeau really should be Sheldon. And here's why. Because he turns around and he's actually got 2 Shut Your Mouths going on this week, but one of which is when he was asked about his wrist, which is why he withdrew from the SONY. He quickly lets the world know, no, my wrist is actually pretty good. And then he signed up for the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, a historic venue. The tournament's been going on for forever. And then he goes on and he says, it will serve as a nice tune-up for the Saudi event. Bryson.
Oh, I didn't see that. What?
Bryson, I'm telling you, you just might have, shoulda, woulda, coulda, shut your mouth on that one. But that's not the only coulda, shoulda, woulda, shut your mouth for Bryson this week.
But that is one that is literally like, hey, just shut your mouth. Stop talking. Oh my, I hadn't seen that, Barn. Oh my gosh.
Then he turns around and Netflix is evidently wanting to do a sort of a real world PGA Tour kind of a thing. By the looks of it, that he's declined participating in it. Now, some of the participants that are going to be in it are Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth. You've got 9 majors between those 3 guys there. But then it also includes Harry Higgs, Joel Damon, Max Homa, and Daniel Berger. And then Bryson goes on and he says, when he's asked about not being a part of it, Bryson says, if I was to go on there, yeah, it'd be cool to see, but I don't want to take the light away from them for their potential to grow themselves in a manner that's unique to them, where they're already pretty far behind. Bryson, you can't say that.
He's just poking the bears.
Those are a couple moments that you just should have shut your mouth. But Ned, I've also got a football shut your mouth for a minute. Are you ready?
Ready.
Would you believe me if I told you that Tom Brady is older than the 3 remaining NFC coaches in the NFC? I'm talking about, other than his own coach, Tom Brady is older than Matt LaFleur. He's older than Kyle Shanahan. He's older than Sean McVay. That makes me want to say, shut your mouth.
Older and wiser, perhaps, Barney. Older and wiser. That's all the time that we have, Barn. I'm interested to see what happens out at the American Express Championship. But I have to say, on Saturday, I will DVR the golf, and I will be watching some Tennessee Titans play football, and then I'll be watching the rest of the NFL. But I'm excited about going out to Palm Springs and seeing the golf out there. All right, Barn, shut your mouth. And I haven't had an I'm So Stupid in a few minutes. I'm worried because normally, when I go 3 or 4 weeks without an I'm So Stupid, the one that ends up being the result of something stupid is absolutely hideous. So pray for me. All right, Barn. See you next week, pal.
See you next week.
You looking for a vacation? Maybe somewhere you haven't been before, somewhere off the beaten path? Consider Mississippi. You can jump on their website, visitmississippi.org. They have the state fair going on just A couple of weeks ago, they had the PGA Tour in Jackson, Mississippi, the Sanderson Farms Championship. Cruising the Coast, the best automobile show in the country. Deion Sanders, Jackson State. They had 52,000 fans turn up last week at the Jackson State football game. There's so much to do in Mississippi. You can hit the coast. You can gamble a little bit, bet on the sports book, play golf. If you love music, the Grammy Museum. Just check it out. Visit Mississippi.org. I always look forward to this segment of the show, but this week my mind is just absolutely imploding on itself because I want to talk golf. I want to talk about what happened in Hawaii. I want to look ahead to the American Express Championship. ESPN Plus, PGA Tour Live launching in earnest this time. All 4 channels will be streaming. Jonathan Coachman, he joins us because he's going to be part of the PGA Tour Live ESPN Plus coverage. You're going to be nice to my Tennessee Titans, or else I will yell at you. But first, I want you to talk about the ridiculousness that is the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't get to watch that much of the games because I was in Hawaii working, but I did get to watch the majority of that game. And the last 2 minutes was just a coaching disaster on both sides of the ball. But this Dak Prescott run, what are we doing?
The game played out exactly as we thought that it would. On my show, The Early Edge over at CBS Sportsline, we thought San Francisco would go in and they would have the muscle to push around the Dallas Cowboys, and that's exactly what they did. But to your point, I've been very, very critical, Ned, of Mike McCarthy, and very, very critical of different teams for not thinking outside the box and hiring a younger coach, maybe adding some diversity. And when you have a retread coach like a Mike McCarthy, who is so set in his ways that he's not going to change anything, he has never been a good game manager. Never. And you can talk to these quarterbacks in their headset to allow him to have a quarterback sneak with 14 seconds to go, no timeouts, and then nobody on the team was hustling back to the line. That means they didn't prepare. That means they didn't practice that particular scenario. And you've got to exhaust everything you have when you're talking about the playoffs, because you never know, Ned, when a situation is going to present itself. And it presented itself twice in the final 3 minutes, and they couldn't get the job done. 25 years of futility, but yet somehow they're still America's team, and I just don't get it.
It was painful to watch, and maybe the play was an okay play. I don't know X's and O's of football well enough. If he only runs 10 yards, it goes down, they spike it. Now they have, in theory, a manageable opportunity to get in the end zone, but why not just run a 10 and out or a 5 and out? They were almost giving that to you. And if it doesn't work, you throw it away.
Well, what he should have done, because Dan Orlovsky did a great breakdown on ESPN. He's great with the tape.
I love Orlovsky. He is fantastic.
So great. And we've become really good friends, too. And so I love watching him. And what he said, you have to have at least 2 seconds to run any play in the NFL, which I didn't know. So instead of running 10 yards, you can give yourself up. And he could have run 6 yards or 7 yards, which still would have been closer, got up, spiked the ball. But the rest of the team never got back either. And that screams to lack of preparation.
It was almost like they didn't know that play was coming.
100%. But you've got to know. I tell my son all the time, whether you're playing golf, whether you're playing baseball, that if you're not going to be the best athlete, be the smartest athlete. And always have your head in the game. Their heads were not in the game. I'm not saying they would have scored a touchdown on the next play or on the final play of the game, but they would have had the opportunity to do it. And that's all you can ask.
That's all you can ask. Speaking of opportunities, I don't know if you follow Guy Adami and Dan Nathan and all these guys. Actually, I do know you do that, but they've made some good calls on the stock market. So they're going to join us later in the show to talk about what's happening in the tech world and the meltdown that is the market right now. So if you're in the markets, make sure you tune in to the next segment. I want to go with golf. Hideki Matsuyama, he wins the SONY Open, beats Russell Henley in a playoff, and he hit 2 shots that now I think, watch out for Hideki Matsuyama because he's done it a couple of times. On Friday, the last hole of the day, the whole location, it's the par 5, the hard dog leg left at Wailea. The whole location was front left over the bunker. He hits a 3-wood off the tee for position, and then he hits the most towering, beautiful, dripping cut, coach, to a left-hand hole location. He's setting up the shot, and I'm saying to Billy Kratzert and Andy North, who's on the ground, I said, guys, is he hitting a cut to this hole location? And it sure looks like it. When he hits it to, 8 feet, missed the putt, whatever. On Sunday, when he needed it in a playoff, exact same shot to the back right hole location to 2.5 feet, makes eagle and wins. Did the same thing when he won the Zozo Championship. So all of a sudden, yeah, he's a Masters champion, but is Hideki Matsuyama somebody that when he comes into the majors and the big events, the Players Championships, Is he now on your short list of guys that you have to pay attention to in terms of betting and odds?
A few things here. First and foremost, this discussion is very, very difficult for me because I was sitting on a plus 3,100 ticket for Russell Henley.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
Oh, let me call a quick timeout. I didn't congratulate you because you told us last week the Cowboys was the game you were most interested in, and you had the 49ers. So, sorry, I meant to pay that off. So let me take a timeout. You nailed it. So if anybody bet with us last week, winner.
Winner, chicken dinner. By the way, little nugget, every team who won in the NFL last week also covered. Every winning team covered the spread. Little nugget there. But, yes, when Russell Henley was up by 5, I did not feel comfortable. And yes, it really stings because on a $100 bet, you're going to win $3,100. And as the birdie putt on 18 to win slid by a half an inch, I was like, it's over. It's over because Hideki is the guy now that when you need a big-time shot, he's going to give it to you.
He's going to give it to you.
I mean, he hit that from the fairway, and then he couldn't even see the ball. Like the sun went in his eyes. And by the way, you guys did an amazing job. I know it was kind of a soft launch for PGA Tour Live, but I really, really enjoyed it. The graphics were phenomenal. I love the new look. I love all of that.
It's better, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the whole player's faster, the quality's better. And I'm sure the commentary was amazing.
The commentary is amazing. Absolutely amazing. But what it does is it puts him in a scenario where he has to hit these shots, meaning Russell Henley, and that's what Hideki does. He's also very, very quiet about going about his business. And when he was down by 5, when it was minus 24 to minus 19, he never got excited. And Russell makes a bogey, can't make anything else, and eventually he catches him. But to answer your question, yes, he has to be on the short list. He wins his 8th time on the PGA Tour. He's the reigning Masters champion, and he's in form coming out of Hawaii. How is he not on everybody else's short list?
Yeah, I think he has moved himself from a guy who, frankly, he was a victim of, well, he's a Japanese player. Japanese players have never won a Masters. Japanese have never done. You can put all that aside. That is just complete hogwash. This guy, he's a complete stud, and he has the game to win anywhere. Now, he has to develop the game to win at the Open Championship. That would be the one maybe missing link because he is a high ball preference player, but he can hit any shot. But you start talking, you look at where we're going in majors this year. I mean, I think he's got really good chances even at St. Andrews in the Open Championship because if the wind doesn't blow, anybody can win there.
You can throw darts in there. Yeah, no question.
Right. So I'm sorry, though, about your Russell Henley.
It hurts because it happens so infrequently.
Could you have sold it?
I could have hedged.
Is that a thing? Can you sell a bet?
Some sites do that as a bonus. I don't like sites like that. I just don't. The reason they do it is because they make money at it. That's why they do it. It's so hard to pick a winner, so that's why it hurts even more. Yes, the $3,000 would have been nice. Would it have changed my life? No. But picking a winner is so incredibly difficult on the PGA Tour that when you get that close and you have a 5-shot lead on the back 9 of a tournament, you expect to get the job done. And it certainly hurts when it doesn't.
Well, especially when you shoot 29 going out, you think, well, this is going to be a victory lap on the way home. Not so fast. Hey, speaking of picking winners, let's pick some winners for our listeners and viewers for this week. American Express Championship La Quinta Pro-Am format. We have 3 different golf courses in use. Jon Rahm's the heavy favorite. You go first. You offer your thoughts on Jon Rahm.
So for those people, and if there's people that are listening to this right now and you're going to the golf tournament this weekend, I went 2 years ago. I live 2 hours from the course. I want to give you a little piece of advice because they've turned this tournament, Ned, into a celebration, and they want it to be just as big a golf tournament as you could possibly go to. So they've added Maroon 5. They've added Brad Paisley concerts. I went to Luke Bryan 2 years ago. 60,000 people. If you've ever been to this venue, you know that 60,000 people is a nightmare. So if you're going to go, drive yourself. You cannot get an Uber out of there because there's too many people. Drive yourself if you're going to stay for the concert after the golf tournament. Now, as far as the golf tournament is concerned, yes, Jon Rahm won here in 2018. He is plus 600. You cannot bet on him to win. There is no value. In a full field event and also in a Pro-Am, there's so many different variables. They're going back to the 3-course layout like they had previous. Last year, they just did 2 because of COVID. So the cut will be after Saturday, not after Friday. That's a big difference too. So the better players have a chance to make up for a bad day with an extra day. So take that into account when you're thinking about what players am I going to bet top 20s on or top 10s on? Because when you look at it, you got to go towards Abraham Answer. He loves playing here. Top 5s the last 2 times. Now, he missed the cut last week, but he loves this course. So I like Answer, maybe a top 20. Phil Mickelson comes back here to play. He's in decent form, and he's motivated because he is now the host of this particular golf tournament because they're trying to elevate it. Smart move by them a couple of years ago to do that. But here's the guy I love, and he's the guy I picked in my one and done. And he finished, I believe, 3rd here a year ago. Scotty Scheffler. He's plus 1,800 to win. Really good value there. So I would put a little sprinkle on him to win. And then if you like him in a top 10 or a top 20, you can get very, very small plus money for him there. But he's the guy I think that fits the middle of getting good value, but also the number is not too low.
Okay, I'm going to respond to all that. Jon Rahm, I agree with you, not because of the odds, although that does bolster the case of why you don't pick Jon Rahm for the win. Top 10, yes. Top 25, whatever, you can get odds there, maybe. Depends on, again, what the odds are. 2 things for Jon Rahm. Past champion, but also he's playing it as a favor to pay homage, respect, whatever, to Mickelson and help this tournament get the notoriety that it once had. And it will have again with Phil's backing. He's the number 1 player in the world, is Rahm. So when the number 1 player in the world shows up, okay, now you've got some gravity to the actual tournament. However, with that, I'm sure he has a ton of off-course obligations this week that he normally wouldn't have because Phil is going to say, hey, can you do this for me? Can you go talk to these sponsors? Can you have dinner with these people? And that just erodes a little bit of your time and your focus. I also think this tournament can often turn into a putting contest. I'm not convinced that Jon Rahm yet has this Callaway putter completely dialed in. I still think it's a work in progress. Still putts really well. It's streaky, though. When he used to have that spider and the TaylorMade, he was just a flat, good putter. He still is, but I think it's going to take one more iteration, one more tweak in the putter, and then he'll be back to where he was. So that's why I wouldn't pick Jon Rahm this week. Abraham Answer, I like that pick, but I haven't liked what I've seen from him the past 2 weeks in Hawaii.
I know. I haven't either.
There was absolutely no wind. So you either have to be hitting the ball exceptionally well, or you have to be making everything. And I have yet to see him do either of those. So, again, they're heavy odds on those guys. If I had to bet one of the favorites, it would be Patrick Cantley. He plays well in California. It's his home state. If there's no wind in the desert, which there probably won't be, he is hitting the ball as well as anybody. We know he can go ultra hyper low. Again, I don't know the exact odds. I don't have it right in front of me.
He's plus 800 to win. And people forget a year ago, he shot 18 under on the weekend after making the cut on the number to win and beat Siwoo Kim. So he has great memories here and comes back as the defending champion.
And sometimes defending champions, much like Rahm, he's going to have a lot of obligations. And this also is a tournament where guys sneak out of nowhere and win. So it's a tough one in my mind to bet. So I like your finding the guys who have some good odds, like a Scotty Scheffler. He is so due to win a tournament on the PGA Tour.
He really, really is. At least a tournament like this. You bring up a really good point. And I think I misspoke. I think Cantley wasn't he 2 years ago? I want to make sure I have that right. I think it was last year. He is the defending champion, correct?
Siwoo Kim won here last year. He's the defending champion.
That's right. He almost caught him, and then Siwoo. So I had that mixed up. That's my apologies.
But the whole COVID era is like, what year was that?
Exactly.
19, 20, 21. I don't really know. It was all 1 year. It's ridiculous.
So I want to make sure we have that right. But he did shoot 1,800 on the weekend to almost get there. So make sure we have that correct.
Before I let you slide out of here, give me one pick for this weekend NFL and talk nice about my Titans.
Here's the deal. The Chiefs are the best bet of the weekend. They're laying 2 at home against the Bills. The Bills are so overrated, and this number should be more like 4 or 5. So that's your best bet. If you have one game you got to bet on, make it the Chiefs. Now, we do a teaser. If you do a teaser, 2 teams, you can add 6 points to their odds. So I love the Bengals against your Titans, but putting them in a teaser, and that takes it up to plus 9.5. And then you could put them into a teaser with the Chiefs and get them at plus 4, or you could go with the Bucks and get them at plus 3, or you could go with the team I would go with, the 49ers, and take them up to plus 12. So I'd go a teaser, Bengals, 49ers, or I'd go Chiefs straight.
Okay. I'm going to take the teaser, and I'm going to discount your Bengals call because it's the teaser. Now talk to me straight up about that game. Bengals Titans.
Here's the thing is if Derrick Henry is healthy, and it is astonishing that he is even back putting a uniform on to play in this football game. But we saw with the Rams that Cam Akers tore his ACL in July, and he had 95 yards rushing for the Rams on Monday night. It's astonishing what technology can do now and what medicine can do now. So now Derrick Henry had a foot injury, had surgery in October, I believe, and he's back right now. So if he's healthy, then you got to give them the nod. But here's the problem. The Bengals are dynamic. I feel like this is the start of a magical run in Cincinnati, which they've never had before, because of their quarterback, Joe Burrow, and because of their dynamic wide receivers. Jamar Chase is going to be a Hall of Famer. T. Higgins is nonsense how good of an athlete he is. So this is a very tenuous number 1 seed for the Titans. But if Derrick Henry is solid, I think they can win. But I think this is too many points. The Bengals are a really, really good football team.
Scares me. I didn't really like any of the options, though. I wanted Pittsburgh to win. Any of the teams we were going to have to play, the Bills, we barely beat. And I say we, the Titans barely beat in the regular season, like a 4th down goal line stand kind of deal. But the Bengals scare they're a good team.
They are. It's going to be a great weekend. And here's the other thing that people aren't talking about that I've been mentioning the entire year, that the Chiefs really wanted to get that number 2 seed. And everyone's like, Coach, no big deal. It is a big deal. If the Titans lose, then the winner of that game on Sunday night, and they will know by then, Ned, what their scenario is, the winner of that game could then get the home field for the AFC Championship game, because the Bills are 3, the Chiefs are 2, the Bengals are 4. So that game could have even more importance come Sunday night.
I do think one thing that it could possibly favor the Titans is the weather is supposed to be bad. Actually, I just pulled up my weather app, and it's still on Honolulu. 69 degrees and sunny in Honolulu.
Your phone is crying.
Right. Exactly. So it's supposed to be somewhere around 20 degrees game time in Nashville, and potentially some winter weather. So that's a turnaround and hand it to 22 and just let them pound away.
All day.
Speaking of good teams, man, your Sportsline team is fantastic. Nobody does it better. And I know you're crazy busy. So tell us where and how we can hear you.
Yeah, we have our daily show every single day at 10 a.m. We do best bets, everything. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sportsline. Also, go to our YouTube page. It's at Sportsline. Follow us there. It's free. If you want to become a part of Sportsline, it's only $10 a month. I mean, there is no better value in all of sports betting. I always routinely tick off the guys that still sell their picks, because I was like, we don't do 5% bombs of the week. We just do really good information. We do it professionally. We do it for fun, and people have a great time. So just follow us at Sportsline, and you will get everything there.
You're going to get picks like you had last week with the 49ers. That was a winner.
Yeah, and right now we have our NFL mega preview we did on Tuesday. We break down every single NFL game for the weekend over the course of 45 minutes to 10 hours. So people definitely, if you want to bet this weekend, go watch that show.
Coach, one last thing. Tighten up. See you good, man.
That's it.
Breaking Even is brought to you by Risk Reversal Media. You can find us at riskreversal.com and check out our podcast On the Tape. Each week, Guy Adami, Danny Moses, and me, Dan Nathan, discuss the biggest market-moving headlines and chat with some of the most influential people on Wall Street, all in an effort to help our listeners make smarter investment decisions. So follow us On the Tape in your preferred podcast store.
Do desperate times call for desperate measures? That's what we're going to talk about today on Breaking Even, as Guy Adami and Dan Nathan join us. First of all, tip of the cap. Over the past 3 to 4 weeks, you all have helped me alleviate some losses that were coming down with the strategy of buying puts on the XLK, hedging off of the Apple, hedging off of the NVIDIA. And it's okay to just hang tight and not do much right now and wait and see what happens as this turn down, this shakeout, whatever you want to call it, comes to fruition. But all that being said, we are still in the downtrend. So how do we continue to manage our portfolio? Do we stay with the puts in the XLK, or is it time to exit those, Dan Nathan?
You may not recognize this, Ned, but Guy Adami and I, we're athletes here. We've been playing this game a long time, man, and we've seen these sorts of moves in the markets, and no one has a crystal ball here. But I think when we were talking towards the end of the year, in that group of stocks that you just mentioned, it just seemed frothy. It seemed like they could do no wrong. So I think you were thinking about it correctly here. So now we've had this move about 10% lower in the NASDAQ, and that is a considerable move. Wouldn't you say so? Felt a little nerve-wracking at times there, Ned?
Yeah, but you've been calling for that. So I guess I was prepared for it in the sense of, okay, I know it's coming, so I can emotionally get ready for it. And here it is. And I don't feel that horrible about it. I mean, I don't feel great about it, but I don't feel that horrible.
Here's what the hedge did for you. It alleviated some of the potential losses that you've had. And hedges are not always going to work. So when you think about a hedge, buying puts or a put spread against a portfolio, you have to think about it as like, I'm willing to lose a certain amount of this that I'm dedicating to this hedge. Now you're in the other scenario where I don't know if it's a good scenario because you're hoping that the hedge alleviated some of the losses. So now you have to make a decision. Are we done going down? Are the stocks that you were trying to protect, are they ready to bounce or so? If the answer is no, then you keep that hedge on or you roll it down. You roll to a closer strike to where the underlying is trading, if that makes sense. So you take the gains and then you take a portion of the gains and you buy some further out of the money, let's say puts or maybe longer dated in a further expiration.
So that's what I did. Guy and I talked about it last week when I was on the shores of Oahu. It was a romantic setting for myself and Guy. Bought the puts at 7, I sold them at 17. And then I've gotten back into the puts, but I don't know, and this is, Guy, jump on this. We still haven't seen the generals, as you all refer to them, have that much of a retreat in terms of Apple, in terms of Microsoft, in terms of NVIDIA. Or have we?
Look at you paying attention. Cheapest thing you can do. By the way, I had to take the Latin in college. Extremis malus extrema remedia. Just for you folks playing our home game. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Those types of things. But you've been spot on, Ned. And now you're trading it. You're trading the stocks. You're trading the options. You're not allowing them to trade you. You took your gains, you took them off the table, you're getting back in. I think you're understanding how things don't go in just a straight line. So I think when you're onto a thesis, you stick to it. And when you've learned the discipline, which clearly now you have, I think you're going to be shocked over the next few months how much better your trading gets. Now, your ideas have always been good, but now you're honing that skill, how to trade around these things.
By the way, Build-A-Bear continues to be the biggest winner in my portfolio. And I've told you my 8-year-old daughter picked it up almost 700%. So thank you for my 7-year-old daughter. Where I'm stuck, though, on this one is you feel like at 10%, the NASDAQ maybe has had its retreat and will find support, hopefully.
No, and I apologize. I should have answered that question. Are the generals going to retreat? They haven't yet. Now, one of the generals, Amazon, has clearly retreated. Google is starting to retreat. We've seen quasi-retreat in Microsoft, but the biggest general out there, I guess the MacArthur or the Patton in the form of Apple, has not. Now, I think Apple topped out north of 170 something. I don't have it in front of me, but I do think, and I'll stand by it, the prior all-time high from the fall was around 154.5, 155. I think Apple absolutely takes a look at that. So if that's a retreat, that's what you're going to get.
And so if that starts to happen, our puts on the XLK, in theory, would be a great hedge against not selling Apple that we've owned for a long time.
Yeah, I think so. When you think about the concentration of Microsoft, of Apple, of Amazon and Google in some of those ETFs, you're mentioning the XLK, but in the QQQ that tracks the NASDAQ 100, they make up a huge percentage of it. Those 4 stocks alone, more than 25%. So yeah, if we start to see all of those move in the same direction, I will tell you this, Ned, yesterday on Tuesday of this week, Microsoft announced a $70 billion acquisition of Activision. The stock was down 2%, and they're using cash to do it. Guy, was that shocking to you? And now today, as we're talking, the stock's up 2.5%. It was like a blip.
Yeah, and what I said about that, it's a rounding error for Microsoft, if you think about it. A company with the market cap they have, a $70 billion deal is a bit of a rounding error. And I think it makes sense in terms of what they're trying to do, in terms of the verticals that they find themselves in. I'm just surprised, quite frankly, a deal like that didn't happen years ago with an Apple, Electronic Arts, or a Disney, or any of those names. It makes a lot of sense for.
I want to switch gears on you because one thing that I am dealing with that I have not yet learned exactly how to do, what do you do with a massive loser? And I'm going to use one that I have, Nanox. It's a company that makes X-ray tubes that are affordable and can be sent around the world, and it's going to make X-rays and MRIs an affordable thing worldwide. It has yet to come to fruition. I made money along the way, but then I left a big chunk of it at $55 per share, and it's now 10. So I've lost 80% of my money. Do I just let it ride and hopefully it bounces back, or hopefully it does what I hope it's going to do in the sense of they actually deliver these tubes? Or do you just cut bait, take the remaining funds, and hopefully put them somewhere else that is money better used?
I would say this is that fundamentally there's some disconnect. There's something going on that you don't know about, because for some of these large institutional holders to sell that stock down the way that they have, you're assuming that this is not just a retail owned stock. There really aren't any out there. At this point, you have to make a decision, Ned, probably sooner going forward in a stock position. How much to the downside am I going to endure? Is that 20%? Is it 25%? Because the sort of losses you're talking about, you can't have too many of those in your portfolio over time. And it's just going to wipe out so many gains of well-performing stocks. So to me, at this point, sometimes it just makes sense to cut bait, like you just said, and move on and not even think about it anymore. And you know what? Someday it might be back at 80 or it might be a zero. You just don't know. And wouldn't that be horrible to watch it go to zero?
It's already been horrible. What is your percentage? What in your mind is I'm out? I thought it was going to do something, or I made some money along the way, but now it's down 10, 15, 20. Is it dependent on the position, or do you have a line in the sand for every single trade or investment that you make? If it goes down X percent, you exit.
Let me take a stab at this. I think for each trade, it's different. I think if you try to be formulaic with these things, you start to get yourself in trouble. Obviously, I think you're willing to risk more with certain trades based on trend lines or fundamentals or support levels, as opposed to other trades which you have on a tighter leash. So I don't think you can say if a position is down 10%, I'm going to cut a third regardless. I think it has to sort of live and breathe, and each one becomes its own sort of thing. That's just my opinion, Dan. What about you?
Yeah, it really depends whether it's a trade or an investment. And then it comes down to conviction. And I think the most important thing, and Guy would agree with me here, when it comes to risk management within a portfolio, no matter whether it's a trade or investment, is really sizing a position. So if you say to yourself, you heard this idea, you were in the locker room at the country club and you're coming off 19 and you're a little fuzzy there, Ned, you know how you can get like that a little bit.
Never.
You hear some doctor and some other guy talking about this great company, and you're like, you start scribbling it down, and then you go and buy some, and then you buy a little more, and you're doing a little research, and all of a sudden you have like a big position. This thing ends up being the size of one of those things that you have in the kids' college fund. And then all of a sudden it starts going south. And then you're like, wait, why do I own this again? You know what I'm saying? So like sizing is really important. You basically say the more speculative is probably the smaller size of your portfolio, if that makes sense. And then the less speculative and the more conviction that you have, maybe it's an Apple or a Microsoft or one of those things that for 10 years, you think they're going to continue to go. They're going to be $5 trillion companies in 10 years from now. Those are ones that maybe you say, okay, I can handle that being 5, 6, 7% of my portfolio. A lot of that percentage of the portfolio has actually happened through gains, if you think about it. And so I think conviction and time horizon and what the catalyst you're there for are really important components of risk management.
Okay, I will chew on all that and digest it. Ballpark me. Give me a ballpark percentage across the board on a trade.
Down 10% immediately, I'm probably looking to cut bait because my entry is either horrible or I just have the situation wrong. And I know that 10% sounds like a lot, but especially when we're dealing with tech stocks, the way that they move, that could be 2 trading days.
Yeah, and then just to amplify that, down 10% is one thing, but then on the flip side, you can't be looking to take profits when things are up 5% because that math is not going to work for you either. So if you're willing to let something run 10% against you, almost by definition, you have to be willing to let your good trades run at least 10% for you. Otherwise, you're going to start pulling the ripcord down percent. You're going to be taking profits up 5%. And that means you're going to have to be right a lot more than you're wrong. I mean, this all becomes a math problem to a certain extent as well.
And Dan, if I remember correctly, at some point in the last couple of weeks, it may have been specific to a trade we were talking, but a goal was 50% on the upside before maybe you would start exiting.
That really depends. I mean, a 50% move in most markets would take years. But if you're in the business of picking these stocks that can go up multiples of the indices, I mean, that's a hard game.
Even on the trade side of things, when you buy a call?
Oh, as far as options. Oh, all right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Percentage gain on the options. If I have a double, let's say I bought a call for $1, and I think we were talking about this as it relates to your XLK. So let's say I bought a put for $1, and then all of a sudden that stock or that ETF goes in the money, and that $1 put is worth $2. Let's say I had 10 contracts. I might look to take 5 off. And at that point, I'm basically playing with the house's money, if that makes sense.
Yes, got you. Understood. Funny that you mentioned hearing doctors talk about things on the 19th hole or at the golf course. You do actually hear a lot of that kind of stuff on the golf course. Some of it good, some of it ill-advised. But one that I have interest in, and I don't know a whole lot about it except for what I've read, is Tiger's new SPAC. Tiger Woods, Carolyn Wozniacki is in it as well. And Tiger's, I think the guy used to run the Tiger Woods Foundation or something along those lines. LDSPU is going to be the ticker. It's a SPAC deal. We know that right now SPACs are not popular. They have fallen out of favor. Curious what you think maybe we should look for in this Tiger SPAC situation, or is it something you got to wait and just see how it all plays out?
Well, just so you know, I mean, this is one of the criticisms over the last 6 months is that we're seeing celebrities just kind of pile into the space.
Tiger's different, though, I think.
He could be. If the sponsor group is saying, hey, Tiger, we just need you for name purposes because we're going to get better access to deals, and they're guaranteeing him a certain cut of basically what the end result is. He basically gets a certain amount of shares. For him, if he likes the guys and he trusts the guys or gals, there's no skin off his back. Reputationally, if the SPAC does poorly, he just blames the finance guys. He's just a golfer. He's got really very little risk in this one. I don't find the space particularly interesting right now. There's a lot of money chasing after not a lot of great ideas. And I think this space has not even had its reckoning yet, to be very frank.
I'll take a golf lesson from Tiger. I'll have a drink with Tiger. It's sort of like that Hyman Roth thing and Frankie Pentangeli, but I'm not certain I'm going to get involved in a SPAC with but that's me. Listen, if you have money that you say, you know what, if I lose this $500, I don't care. I just want to be involved just to see what happens. I think that's one thing, but I can speak intelligently about a few things. A Tiger Woods-led SPAC is not one of them.
What about this deal that Trump has going on, DWAC? This seems to be running. Is that going to be a short-lived and then boop?
Dan, that's right in your wheelhouse.
I would avoid that like the plague. And I mean that really seriously without being political by any means. I mean, look at the guy's financial track record. I literally think he's got like 6 bankruptcies. I don't know people who want to do business with people like him. So to me, what's gone on with this SPAC, it seems like one of these meme movements in a way by a certain set of investors who are really interested in it. So not my cup of tea.
Okay. Those are the questions that I wanted to know about, and it is interesting. Well, that's it for now. Hopefully we make ourselves a little bit of money, or at least keep ourselves from losing too much money. Hey, make sure that you check out In the Money with Dan Nathan, because some of the themes that we talked about today, he's covering in a little bit more in depth. So you'll see the parallels between what we talked about today and his episode of In the Money. I think you'll even better understand a little bit deeper what plays can be made on the themes that we discussed today. All right, so that's it for Breaking Even. We'll see you next week.